Welcome to the GRN, the Growth and Resilience Network, and the latest episode of our podcast channel. I am Steve Piscitelli, your host, coming to you from my headquarters, my world headquarters, here in Atlantic Beach. Thanks for joining us today. Full disclosure with this, I've recorded nearly 50 episodes for this podcast channel. This is the first time. I do not know how or where to start, and I'm not being hyperbolic or cliche-driven on that. Today we're going to hear from two people, two friends, who have suffered the unimaginable, or at least that's how I label it, the death of a child, and not the death to a disease, not a death that one might prepare for if you could ever prepare for that, but the loss of their 20-year-old daughter, Liz, came one Sunday while she was enjoying life with friends on a boat. I'm not a parent, so obviously I've never lost a child. I have always thought that the loss of a child, the person you brought into the world, is somehow unnatural. I mean, the child is not supposed to predecease the parent. Yes, it happens, and it has happened to a lot of families. One CDC study quoted a few years back found that a child dies from, quote, unintentional injury, end quote, every hour. Still, it's not the way of things, at least not in this mind. So to help me get my head around it, help the audience get their head around it, we have these two dear folks with us today. Not sure what to say many times when people come across a parent who has lost a child. So what do you say? What do you do? How does a parent deal with such a loss? Is it ever dealt with? Is there something called a new normal? Is there ever a new normal? And what words do you use, not use, if you are speaking with the parent? And before I introduce our guests, I want to quote a piece I read from the grievingparents.net blog, and it came from a mother who lost two children. And I'm sure our two guests will address something like this or this specifically today. And the quote is this: "For years I didn't want to hope because, well, my babies died. I didn't want to dream, try, plan, laugh, hold on too tightly to anything, or see myself as a whole person because my babies died. Who could ever tell me I'd be okay? And trust me, no one did. No one was brave enough to look my grieving face in the eye and say, 'It feels impossible, but you will heal if you want to.' Instead, I was told I'd never get over the deaths of my sweet girls because a mother doesn't get over the loss of her children. It was stated like truth, and I believed it for a while." So with that, I'm going to introduce Abby Steele, Michael Steele. Why don't we first start, you just tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll have you, as you want, talk about Liz, perhaps that April day in 2009, and we'll just make this organically flow. So, who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So thanks, Steve. I'm Abby, and I was born and raised in New Jersey and moved to Florida the day after I graduated college, and lived in South Florida before I moved to North Florida, where I met Michael. Liz was our youngest child, and we also have our daughter Samantha, who lives locally, and Samantha and her husband Michael have two little boys. Mm-hmm. We have a 3-year-old, he'll be 3 in a month, 3-year-old grandson Mikey, and a six-month-old grandson Jack.
And I understand you saw them right before you came here today.
We did, and so it's always good to have that happiness in your life before you kind of lead into something like this, I find. So, yeah, it's been a journey. Sam's been a part of the journey. Sam and Mike were both just dating. So, interestingly, and we can get into this further, but Mike DiCarlo, our son-in-law, his behavior and his embracement and encouragement and empathy and compassion when Liz passed away, for me, sealed the deal that this is the boy for our daughter.
And we're going to come back to that at some point. What he said, what he did, and others that, I don't know if it's the magic words, how are people there?
Right.
But we'll come back to that. But we have to get the other part of this
Absolutely.
dynamic duo in here, who I actually have known for about, it's going on close to 50 years now.
Close to 50.
Yeah.
Almost, well, definitely 45.
Yeah, and that's hard when we're only 36,
That's right. It's an amazing thing. An amazing thing.
Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit.
Thank you, Steve. Well, I'm Michael, and I've been married with Abby for 27 years, and we've known each other for
30.
30. I was blessed to meet Abby and had Liz in my life since she was 2.5, and Sam 4.5, almost 5 years old. And it was a wonderful, wonderful, well, I guess 17 and a half years with Liz, and it's been a journey, 10-year journey now without her. But she's still present with us, and it has made me grow as a father, as a husband, and it has, as time has grown, as a person, and as time has gone on in reflection, it has just taken me to a place that I don't think I would have obtained if this had not happened. And there's a number of points that we'll explore.
We'll
along
come
the
into.
way.
Yeah, I want to hear about those. Tell us about Liz.
She had a really big personality. Liz was like a meteor. I mean, she had this beautiful smile. She was an adorable young woman, and she would walk into a room and just light it up. I mean, she would kind of just make you gasp a little bit. She was just.
Was she the oldest? Was she the oldest?
She was the youngest.
The youngest, okay.
She was the youngest, and she just really loved life. And it's interesting because, Liz, we lived on the water. She's Cancer the crab. Water lily is her flower. And she passed away on the water. And the interesting thing was, she was just, every day of her life, she tried to do the things she loved. And that day, she was doing what she loved. She was, on my birthday, she was the first text I got every year on my birthday. And she just would walk into a room and just kind of be everywhere in the room.
Yeah, be everywhere. Yeah.
She was something. She was a very special in a way to be looking for the good in everybody. She did have that special smile, that special look, the big brown eyes. She was beautiful both outwardly and in her soul. I've had people tell me both before her passing and after that she had made a special impact on them, because when they came to school or they were somewhere where they were kind of ostracized, that Liz was the one that kind of brought them into the fold. I can remember times when there was a special time in my life where she reached out and made sure that she was there for me. We kind of searched as a family for my name, not dad, not father, but whatever. And she came up with Pappy. There was a couple of times when she was growing up that that are special moments in my life. That as a kid, that she was just so happy and looking for the good in life, and it was very very apparent that she just loved life, and it had a lot of fun at it.
It sounds like she helped others have fun at it also.
She did. She did, and but she was a perfectionist, and it came to light that she's had her struggles too. She had her demons, and so not everything was perfect in her life. So we don't want to make it sound like this kid was just the perfect kid. She struggled. She had her demons, but
she's a human.
Yeah, she's a human.
She's a human. Do you? And if you don't want to, because it's traumatic at this point, but would you want to say a little bit about that Sunday in April? Just without, you don't need to go into great detail, but what happened? How'd she leave us?
Interestingly, we were supposed to have dinner with her that evening, and so like 11 o'clock in the morning, she called and she said, "Hey," they had some friends in town from California. "Hey, we're all thinking of going on a boat down to St. Augustine, and would you mind if I didn't have dinner with us?" And I was like, "Oh, absolutely, I understand." It was a beautiful Easter Sunday, bright blue sky, gorgeous temperatures. And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Okay, I'll call you when I get home. I love you." And I said, "I love you." And sorry.
Well.
And so we didn't hear from her. And we went to these friends' house who she was supposed to come with us. And around 10 o'clock at night, we got a knock on our door. And wasn't it about 10?
10:30, yeah.
And her old roommate came to our house, and her old roommate's father is a doctor. And she said, "Mike and Abby, there's been an accident." And which was so amazingly brave of this 20-year-old girl to come to our home. And she starts telling us about what happened, about the accident on the Intracoastal. And she's talking, and she said, "My dad's gone to look for her to the hospitals." And she continued to talk to Michael. I went on the WTLV website and saw the accident, and it said 5 people die in boating accident on the Intracoastal. And with every cell in my body, without knowing, I knew she was gone. I knew she was gone as soon as I read that she was one of the one that perished. And it was a really long night.
So we called our friends, and who else was a doctor, Jeff and Dee Dee, and alerted them, and we started searching and calling the different hospitals. They had taken people all over Jacksonville, life flighting and everything, and hoping against hope that that one of the survivors could be Liz, and just the names, and it was chaos. So no names were coming up, and no names were coming up, and no names were coming up, and finally it was 3 or 4 in the morning. It was apparent that Liz was one of the folks, one of the kids that had died in the accident, and it was just.
How do you start processing that? So now it's 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, or whenever. It's early morning. You just realized you've lost your daughter. Do you go on some sort of an automatic pilot and you start looking, we got to take care of this, we got to take care of this, we got to take care of this? Do you collapse? I mean, how does one? And obviously, people deal with things individually. I understand there's not a set way, but I'm thinking again, the child. How can you share that?
I remember distinctly what I did that morning. So it was like 4:30 in the morning, and I put on my sneakers and just started to walk in Ponte Vedra and converse with God, which I won't say because it would definitely have to be edited out, my conversation with God at that moment in time. But I just had to, I couldn't be in my home where there was just remnants of what happened the night before and pieces of Liz that were kind of everywhere. And I had to get out of the space. So that was, for me, I said to Michael, I got to get out of here. And I walked 3 miles round trip, which would normally take me about 40 minutes, took me about 2.5 hours. Because I could barely think to put one foot in front of the others, but I just needed to process in my head what was happening at that moment in time.
I don't know what I was doing, just trying to...
You're trying to be there for Abby.
Yeah, be there for Abby and taking it in and just, being what it could be, just trying to imagine that it wasn't there, but knowing that it was.
So you walk this 2.5 hours, you get home, eventually you're going to put your head down on a pillow and not sleep, you get back up, and now it's later the day, the next day, and it's a new world. Where are you where were you then, and then how did you get to the point you are today? And is there a new normal, or is that just somebody on the outside who doesn't know what I'm talking about, using words that don't make sense?
No, there is a new normal. There is a new normal, but it takes a long time to get there. Abby and I definitely, Abby will share, had a different journey. One, Abby's Liz's mother, and I'm Liz's pappy or father, and also we're very different people. I approached it and went through the grieving process a little bit different. I mean, I truly got mad, cried, was truly hurt, couldn't believe what had happened during the service. The people that were involved in the accident came in. I was still somewhat in shock, but kind of accepted them, gave them a hug, and had them sit down in the pew behind us. Some of me wanted to hit them, but I knew that wouldn't do any good. They were grieving as well. So I gave them a hug and had them sit. And then from there on, it was knowing that Liz was going to be not with us anymore, but she was, and that she was telling me early on that she didn't want me to be sad. As much as I wanted to be, as much as I wanted to hurt, she was telling me that, Pappy, don't be sad. And I knew that the old grieving process. If you don't do it right, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But I made sure that I tried to do it right. But then I tried to move through it.
When you say Is there a right way to do this? Is there a way to do this? Is it your way to do it?
It was my way. I mean, the clinicians say if you don't really get mad and sad, you could get stuck in it. I don't know. I went mad and sad pretty quickly, and then I tried to live with the joy of the 20 years. I wanted to. I could look at the pictures of the joy of Liz fairly quickly that we had as a family. That's the way I grieved through it, in truly believing that what I had was a blessing, and what I wasn't going to have, I couldn't control. So I had to allow myself to be in the time, be in the moments that I had.
Abby, when you and I were talking before we met today, in one of the emails you had said there are two things, and then I'll throw it to you. You said there are things that will change drastically and things that will change minimally, but nothing will be the same, which I think is kind of what Michael was saying about there is a new normal. And then you said you will live through this, but it will be the most painful experience of one's life, as one can imagine. Can you go to the idea of things will change drastically and things will change minimally? Again, in my non-parent mind, I'm just thinking, how could anything be minimal in that situation? So tell us what you experienced and learned.
So I think that, the drastic part, of course, is to just learn to live without the child with you any longer. The physical missing was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Because you have memories and you have things and pieces and pictures and everything, but just the physical ache of that child no longer there is really big. So, it's literally like, for me, it was probably 15 or 18 months where it was not the first thought in my mind when I opened my eyes in the morning. And, you just have to figure out, how am I going to get through this day because she's gone? And then...
So it's initially it's day to day, moment to moment.
Moment to moment. It's moment to moment. And then you have to figure out, how am I going to live in my life now that there's a giant piece that's missing? So it was really unbelievable, because I'm a big believer in signs and the universe speaking to us. And so some of the things that would happen were just crazy. We had a basketball hoop up at our other house, and there was a key on our driveway. And one morning I go out, and I have pictures of this, and it looks like an oil stain underneath the basketball net. Liz was a big basketball player, played varsity ball and stuff. And it was a heart, and one top of the round part was missing. So it was like if you took the heart and quartered it, a quarter of that heart was gone in this oil stain that lasted for about 3 days on our driveway and then disappeared. And it was like, how do I learn to live without that quarter of my heart still here? That's the biggest thing. How do I learn to live in this life without my child? The small things are like, how do I make it through the grocery store and walk down the cereal aisle when she used to love cereal? Or how do I go Christmas shopping and get gifts for Sam and gifts for Michael and gifts for whomever, and deal with the fact that I am not buying her gift? And so I would buy like little things where she's buried and hang ornaments from the tree and little trinkets and things just because I had to give her something of myself.
Right.
And you just have to figure out, how do I not this be the only thing that occupies my mind, because I have another child who I love dearly and loves us dearly, a husband who I love, my mom, my mother-in-law, my sisters, my brother-in-laws, my sister-in-laws, like all these people in my life that I have to let in when I don't want to let in anybody or anything. And so it's just learning, how do I reframe my thinking about what is my place on this earth?
And you're saying that took a year to a year and a half to at least get to the point where you start doing that.
Yeah. I mean, and we went right away to this support group that's at the Ponte Vedra Valley. Literally. So Liz passed away on April 12th. The first meeting we went to was TPC week of the following month, which was in May, second week of May. And I have to say, I quickly had to have the first Mother's Day without her and my first birthday without her, because my birthday is right around Mother's Day. And we went to this group, which has been really instrumental for me, because everybody in that room has lost a child, an adult type child, like teens through late 30s. And so they understand if you can't articulate how you feel, or you just want to sit in a corner and cry, or you want to talk about all the wonderfulness in your life that's come. Nobody questions you. Nobody thinks anything else of you except, I get it.
Yeah.
And they do get it. But the first meeting we went to, I couldn't even speak. Michael was the only one who could speak. I literally just sat there and cried for 2 straight hours. I think for me, I was like, there's a lot of things that you can do for yourself in this world. And then this is one of those things that, for me, I needed all the help that I could get.
And if I can, might segue into that. You had a support group. And do you still have this support group? Okay, so you're still involved with...
10 years later,
okay.
Yeah.
With people who get it, who've been through it, navigate through it, and have handled it in their way, and they help. For folks who aren't in that support group, people like me, and most, if not, well, most of your friends who have not lost the child, what worked? What did they do that helped? And I asked it for this reason. One of the reasons is that when we come across someone who has lost a child, and again, we haven't, did you find something like, what should we say? What should we not say? And if we're totally lost, should we just be quiet and say, I'm here for you? I mean, what did you find? And if you don't mind, if there was something, if it doesn't get dark for you, but was there something that people would say or do that you could look at, you could almost laugh because they were so uncomfortable, but you say, my God, that doesn't work. I wish you didn't say that or do that. I mean, that could help folks, I think. Yeah. So, Michael, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot for people to be in. The best thing to do would be, that I found people to do, is just to give you a hug. Because words aren't going to make a difference. There's nothing you can say. I can't imagine. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, because you're going to be there. Everybody's going to die, or someone's around you is going to die. Death is part of life. So I can't imagine. Doesn't really do anything for you. A hug does, because that means I'm there for you. Or like you said, I'm there for you. Anything that I can do, but a hug is the best. What I found that really got to me is when somebody said, it's all in God's plan. That took me back and just said, no way. It's not in God's plan. No. That made me mad. God doesn't plan this. I mean, bad things happen to good people. Things, we have free will. Bad things happen. It's not God's plan. Please don't say that.
That didn't help Michael.
That does not help. And then as time went on and things, maybe a year on, people used to say, well, geez, don't you think it's time to move on?
Wow.
No. There's never time to, you're never going to move on. You can move forward. We're all going to move forward, but not to move on.
You're not going to move beyond,
No.
which I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, if you got, we both watched a TED broadcast, and there's a TED broadcast out there with a woman that very poignantly talks about death and in life and death, and she said it's kind of like saying, you have a birth of a child, and he has a first year a birthday, a birthday for his 1 year birthday, and then he gets to his 5 year birthday, and it's like, it's his 5th birthday. Can't you move on from it? No.
We got to do this again.
We got to do this again? No.
Yeah,
We can't.
Point well taken. Yeah.
So, but a hug.
A hug. Abby, what helped you? If you could point to something or.
I think to Michael's point, the physical aspect of somebody holding you close, and they don't really even have to say anything, but just the I'm here for you, and that they're there for you. I think it's interesting because, and anyone who's lost a child or suffered a really severe grief. I mean, losing a child is horrific, but other people suffer intense grief because they have other situations in their life that would cause that. And so I have this theory about grief. People, you never outrun grief. It just hasn't caught up to you yet, because everyone will suffer some kind of pain of loss. And the people I know who have suffered really tremendous loss, what they say is, this loss has made me smarter. Has made me smarter in a lot of ways, because now I'm more selective about the people I want in my life. And I'm more selective about what I will tolerate and won't tolerate. And it's true. I kind of look at Liz's passing as a gift from her to me, because I'm such a better person, I feel now. So much better than personally I feel I was. Like, the things that matter to me are different, and the things that don't matter to me are different. And I really attribute a lot of it to Liz's passing.
Yeah, and you said something earlier, Abby, about something about people to let in. And it sounds like you, along with through the grieving process, you recognized and identified those to let in, as well as those to, I don't know if you say keep out or just
push out.
Yeah, this is not working. This is not what I need, what we need, what the family needs. So thank you, but you're not helping. Yeah.
And I think, and I'm going to go back to our son-in-law, Michael. I couldn't get Sam on the phone, and so I called him and said, Mike, there's been an accident. You need to bring Sam to the house. And he's like, okay, I got it. I've taken care of it. And he came to the house, and the house was really, there were lots of people and lots of movement. And, our siblings came in from far away. And, my mom came, my mother-in-law at the time wasn't traveling, and he just was just a most rock solid presence. And he was so behind the scenes. So whenever the garbage had to go out or food needed to be brought over to the city rescue mission or this or that, he was
there.
He was there. He was so there.
Just stepped in and did. And obviously he was close enough. He knew what needed to be done. And if he didn't, he found out.
It's interesting because they had been dating, I don't know how long at that time.
This is Sam
and Mike.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they had just recently moved in together. So they had probably been together maybe 2 or 3 years. And so we had seen him, frequently, but nothing that would have prepared him with our family for what he was stepping into.
Yeah.
And, it just was. And we have other friends who stepped in, like our friends Dee Dee and Jeff, who Michael was referencing. Like, she literally would come to our house at 7 o'clock in the morning and stay until 10 o'clock at night and just coordinate everything. And Mike's brother, Scott, who has subsequently passed away, he just was like, he would put people and say, you can come in, you can't come in. And an interesting story that you will be able to relate to was Dane Gilbert was at our house and the news came knocking and Dane went to the door and said, I'm sorry. We are not going to speak to you, and you need to get off this property now. So those were the kind of people who came in and said, we're like, look, you can't break these people's hearts anymore. You have to go away.
Yeah, when something like this happens, when the accident happened and you sit back and you get time to step away. I looked at it, and I think Abby looks at it. What we're talking about is you can sit in your grief and feel sorry for yourself, or you say, "Hey, what would Liz want? How can we make something? How can we learn and make something good come from this?
Right.
But how can we make something good come from this? How can we make the world better from something bad that happened to us? And, and it's making us, how can we be a better person for it? And we find ourselves being better people. My relationship with Samantha, with Sam, is so strong and so much different and better. We've learned to set boundaries with ourselves, and I've learned to set boundaries with myself, much like Abby's talking about, for the people that are important, and not worry about being the people trying to fit into everybody, but to belong to those people that care, and do the right thing. If we talked a little bit about this, and I'll share. In my recovery program, we went. The Wednesday after the accident, we went to a meeting at noon at the library, and we didn't know what else to do. I didn't know what else to do, and Abby went with me and shared what happened. And the people in recovery wrapped their arms around us. But before that
physically.
Yeah. But before that happened in the meeting, there was 5, 6, 7, 8 people that shared that they too had lost a child. So we are not unique. And like Abby was talking about as well, as we had to share we had to have our grief. We had to live through it. But we are one of many. And we have to be there and experience our own grief. But then, as with Parents with Hope, we're in it now 10 years later, not for ourselves, but for others, to help others walk through it and help them recover, help them know that there's hope on the other side, so that they too will laugh one day.
So the support group, or is it one group or groups?
One.
So the support group you're with not only helps you, you're saying it's even more altruistic. We're here for others.
Oh, absolutely.
We've experienced, so we will share. And as that quote said that I said at the beginning, you will get over this. You
Through.
might not get over it, but you will get over it, whatever
Right.
the over it is. Yeah,
Right.
there is another. Your life's going to continue
Right. We will move forward.
forward, not
It'll-
on.
Not on.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah.
I think the other thing, when you talk or you ask about, what can someone do, that people are afraid to say your child's name because they think it's going to upset you and you're going to cry. But to hear your child's name is like music. Say it all the time.
Let me ask you this: is grieving the right word? Like if I say, if you say, Michael and Abby, they're grieving the loss of their child. Is that correct, or does it make a difference what kind of word is used in that? Is it grieving? Is it remembering? Because Michael, you had said she's still present with us, not with us, but she was with us. She is with us, right? So, is that grieving, or is that the forward movement you're talking about?
Initially, it's a grief, but for me, quickly, and I think eventually for Abby, it is a presence with us. Oh, absolutely a presence. I talk about Liz all the time, and I talk about her. Sometimes I'll slip into the presence, into the present tense, and that is because, and it's not necessarily a slip of the tongue. Some people might look at me like I'm crazy, but I believe that she is present with me.
Yeah.
Abby was talking about the sign on the driveway. I mean, you become so much more aware. Things like cardinals or things like the beautiful sky, the moon. You become more aware.
Is it a mindfulness about
That's
this?
a great word. A great word. You become mindful of what really is important in the beauty of people, in the beauty of the world, and what really matters. What really matters. Do I take the time for worrying about cleaning the garage or going to see my grandson? What's important? All of a sudden, it's, do I worry about work or do I worry about going to see my daughter, Samantha?
And if I remember correctly, I'm sitting in a basketball game for the Fletcher High School here at the Beaches. I was watching a neighbor play the JV game, and a little later in the varsity game, Liz was recognized. Wasn't there something you did as
That we
keeping her with us?
We do still continue to do it. So we have a fund at the Community Foundation that we use to do philanthropic stuff to remember Liz. And so Michael and Brian Gilbert came up with an idea. Do you want to?
Dane's son.
Yeah.
Dane's son.
Yeah, we donated some money to the Fletcher basketball team for new uniforms because Brian had honored Liz with and talked about Liz and how she approached life, and the had a sign made for over the locker room, and
Is that the team she played for? She
played for Nice. And
Nice,
we
okay.
supported Nice for a long time, the Nice girls basketball, we had a scholarship there. And then we transitioned a little bit more broadly to the Beaches.
Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
And so and Brian had been honoring Liz even before this for the for a number of years prior to when he got to be coach. And so we wanted to honor and appreciate the fact that he was honoring Liz and her legacy. And
And it brings a smile. You're smiling right now.
Yeah.
It brings a smile to your
Yeah.
face. Yeah.
yeah.
You mentioned the foundation. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, the Liz Rosenfeld legacy at the Community Foundation.
Is that something online that people could go to? Can you give us an address or?
It's right at the Northeast Community Foundation.
Northeast Florida Community Foundation.
Okay.
So you can go online through the Northeast Florida Community Foundation, and you can donate directly through that, all online.
Okay.
And
And you-
it's,
And you'll get that to me off mic, and then I'll post that with the podcast as well.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah, so Brian and Liz, they used to play basketball against Michael and Dane, and so, they just
Would have liked to have seen that one.
yeah. So, like, we had Karen and I. We thought Karen is Dane's wife. We thought that we were going to be related because Brian and Liz would get married, and Brian was really crushed when Liz passed away. I mean, they were really, really close. And so we just felt after all the time that Brian had spent with Liz, and and how he still talks about her, or and honored her, that it was important that we supported Brian at that moment in time.
Yeah, and it does bring a smile to my face when I see your smiles, and then Michael going back, because like I said, we go back 45 years, and you think back in days of college, obviously nobody knows what's coming, and the furthest thing from one's mind is what you have experienced 45 years ago. And what you say keeps on ringing in my head, moving forward, not on.
Yeah.
So
I was in a meeting today and was talking about coming to this podcast, and talking about the importance of the idea that my 12-step program helped me learn the idea of acceptance, and the acceptance of things that I cannot control. If I cannot control it, I have to learn to accept it. It was hard to accept it, but once I was able to deal with it and accept it, and then be able to move forward with it, then I was able to start to be able to celebrate in Liz's life, and talk about the beauty of her life, and the fact of how that this was a learning experience, and in terms of a recovery, that this is something that didn't have to take me back into a world of drink, or into a world that I had fought so hard to come away from. We had talked to, I had been 11 years sober, or I am 11 years sober. And the fact is that this accident happened when I was a year and a half sober.
Talk about a challenge to the challenge.
Right. And it was something that necessarily we weren't talking about, but I think it's important, not only how to deal with the grief, but it's important to talk about, one, how the recovery system helped us get through it, and also the fact that these kind of events don't have to take somebody back away from their recovery.
Right.
You can use the recovery, the 12-step system, to help you get through it. And that acceptance and that strength of the fellowship helped both of us. Because the fellowship enveloped us, and told us that they would be there for us. And it was much like the support group that Abby and the group, the Parents with Hope, have. It's kind of like the 12-step system, and we had it to start with.
And this is probably another podcast. I've heard of when something like a death of a child happens, that it can drive a wedge between the parents.
Oh, yeah.
And it can lead to a separation, a divorce, or what have you. As I've known you, since, and see you here, that doesn't seem to have happened. It seems that, I don't know if I could say, I couldn't say if you're closer, not close, but you're still together.
Many couples struggle, and divorce is pretty common among people, a husband and wife who've lost a child. Interestingly, in the group that we're in, I don't know if it's just the group, but all the people who were married when their child passed away are still married to their partner. So
all of them in that group.
well, not everybody's married. Some were divorced prior, and then their child passed away. But
Right.
everyone who was married at the time that their child passed, who comes to that group, are still married, which is, I think, lends itself to the power of having the support around you to hold you up and to be there. I will tell you that meeting that we went to on the Wednesday, at the library. Not only
that first meeting?
the first meeting with Michael, when we went to the meeting, not only were there like 7 or 8 people who had said that there were, that they also had lost child, but in the room were first responders who had showed up to the accident.
Oh.
Also, and interestingly, 6 degrees of separation. A friend of mine was visiting a friend of hers who lives outside of Denver, Colorado, and her son, this woman who she was visiting, her son was the first responder at the accident. I mean, it just like out of the blue, it's amazing. The drop a stone in a water and you see the ripples, like just the ripples that go out from one accident, one life it's just amazing to see, like so many people who you don't know or maybe have never met, who I know Liz affected. I know people have heard about us and we've affected other people, and it's just really, you said mindfulness. So, Michael went one way, and I got seriously into yoga, and I would take 2, sometimes 3 yoga classes a day, like the first 1 or 2 years. I became certified. I teach yoga now, and I got Liz into yoga. And it is that whole mindfulness, that being present in your life, be here now, as ridiculous as it sounds, but be here with the people you're with now, because there's nothing guaranteed to you in this world. And your next breath isn't guaranteed, nor the person who you love's next breath, or anybody in this space with you. And so just be where you are and enjoy where you are now, because you never know how long this is going to last. And I think that really kind of was something I every day strive to do. Sometimes I do it better. Sometimes I don't do it worse.
Yeah. As we bring this to a close, I want to let both of you address any one thing that you haven't been able to say. And you want to say, listen, before we hit the off button and turn the mics off, I want to make sure I say this. Or is there something you've already said and you just want to go back and repeat it because it's that important to your soul and your heart, and you think it will have an impact on the people listening? So you started this, I think. So we'll go with Michael. Let you start this end, and Abby will let you finish this.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve. I do appreciate the time. I think the most important, lesson or thing that I would want to share or leave was that to truly appreciate and love the people that are around you, and understand that death is part of life. And as you look at that and think about that death is part of life, that you need to enjoy each other right now so that there are no surprises. And when there are, or when that tragedy comes, or when that illness comes, that you don't look back with any regrets. That, like when Abby said that she was able to say "I love you" to Liz, that was, you're left with that beauty of saying "I love you," and I can still think of the times that Liz said, "Hey, Pappy, I love you," and you know that you gave it your all, and you love, in what Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, love the one you're with, and that's
I
truly.
think that was a little different than.
Yeah, but that's all right. Love your family, love your friends, and truly appreciate what you got.
Good. Abby? Thank you, Michael.
So I think for me, what I really, I'm just agreeing totally with everything that Michael just said. But one of the things that I think people need to kind of be aware of, we have so many filters in our head and in our hearts and everything. And if you just open your heart and open your mind, there are so many signs out there of showing you other parts of the universe that we have no idea exists. And I'm a believer in my faith and my belief system that, like Liz is just on the other side of a veil, and I just can't get to that other side of the veil. But if my heart's open and I'm on my bicycle, at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I look up to the sky and there's a shooting star, that's my baby. She's saying, "Mom, I'm right there with you." And to just take some of that noise that's in your head out and say, I have to believe that she's here with me and everywhere with me all the time. Or, whether it's Liz or it's, other people have passed away. And I just have to always believe that they're just right there with me, because I don't want to believe that I will not ever see them again. So that's what I will leave you with.
Yeah. And I won't even add to that. Abby Steele, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. And Michael Steele, thank you. And Liz, thank her.
Yeah.
Thank her. And thank you, the listeners, for joining us today. Without you, there is no Growth and Resilience Network podcast channel. Thanks for sharing with your friends and your colleagues and your community leaders. And we will post that foundation on the podcast in the description. I'll talk to the production people, which happens to be me, and we'll see what we can do to get it in there, okay? I have a small team. A small team. Visit my website, stevepiscitelli.com, for more information about past and upcoming episodes. So until we meet again, either virtually or somewhere in person around this great nation, this is Steve Piscitelli, today with Abby Steele and Michael Steele from Atlantic Beach, my world headquarters, reminding all of us to choose well, live well, and be well. Continue to create, share, and savor powerful moments, folks. Bye-bye.